Done, you?
Yep, I'm done. Cut them off.
Yeah, I'm not.
Done, you?
Yep.
Are you watching this on the live stream?
Cut them off.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm curious if it's working.
Yep.
If you don't mind, can you push this side post screen?
Cut them off.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm curious if it's working.
Yep.
If you don't mind, can you push this side post screen?
Cut them off.
I'm curious if it's working.
Yep.
If you don't mind, can you push this side post screen? I'm curious if it's working.
Yep.
That should,
If you don't mind, can you push this side post screen? I'm curious if it's working.
Yep.
that should,
If you don't mind, can you push this side post screen? I'm curious if it's working.
Yep.
that should,
If you don't mind, turn that down. There's no echo.
that should, wine, diesel and stuff. For a guy like me.
Well, that Dollar General's looking fantastic.
How many Dollar Generals do we need? There's start doing a Family Dollar.
Oh, they're doing a new.
Doing a.
Is that right?
Yeah, Dollar General.
Money Tree is next, or whatever. Yeah, I guess the one in
I'll tell you what.
Lease is not, they're not renewing it or something.
It's a bit late now, but I love October hay. There is something
One out on Concord Road is
they're
gonna
cutting hay.
replacement for the one that's.
Dries for a little longer.
Still, that's kind of a bad area.
So much
Well,
fun.
you know how Concord Road
We're gonna try to get MDOT to do it.
It is, but it's, it dries.
What's 6 o'clock, Andy?
Freeze. Oh, boy.
We don't have.
Hey, it's
Are you ready, Madam Auditor?
6.
All right. Good evening, folks. I want to welcome you to the public hearing dated October 12th, 2021. At this time, I'm going to call this public hearing to order. If you would all stand with us, we'll say the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Father, we thank you tonight for your grace, your mercy, your unconditional love for each of us. Grant wisdom tonight as we deal with issues here that involve the county, that we would bring glory and honor to your name. Forgive us where we fall short. We ask it in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. If you guys haven't seen it already, there's a clipboard. If you're visiting us with us tonight, if you would please sign in. Also, council members, you have in front of you the proposed budget for 2022. You placed some of those up there as well, Sheila?
Yes.
For our guests. And at this time, I'll open this public hearing. If there's any comments on the budget, there's not enough of you here that we need to worry about signing in or signing up to talk. We certainly want to entertain those. So again, the public hearing's open. So if you have a question, please raise your hand and we'll do our best to answer those. Council members as well, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please utilize this time to get an answer.
I do have a question or a concern with the building department. Are we sure we're okay there as far as the miscellaneous revenue we anticipate bringing in and then the budget that we set? Because I know that's been a tricky one for a couple of years now. We did a lot of work to consolidate things. We don't have a huge track record under the current structure. So I'm just curious, do we think we're okay to make it through, or is there something else there we might need to
I know the commissioners worked with Suzanne and based on the current revenue and that this was what was presented by Suzanne and the commissioners to move everything back into the building fund.
At least for the 1 year,
Right,
okay.
we can always.
So, and Jim, you may have the latest and greatest on that, but we were given a proposed revenue amount. It went up quite a bit from where it had been in the past.
Sure, the big difference, yes, to answer your direct question is yes, the revenue has went up as permits. The other thing, at one time, this was a split between the county and the town, and when there was the division, the previous agreement that 40% of the assets went to the town of Spencer. That's all taken place. So what I'm saying is you're getting a true amount. You do not have to subtract the amount you see in that cash line by 40%, believing that goes to another entity. That is 100% of the county revenue. So I think that gives you a more accurate picture of real money or actual money. It is, there's not a good precedent from the past as far as we can say, well, the last 3 years we've made it. But the permits and the revenue has matched their expenses clearly for the past few months.
As long as there's some eyes on that and people are comfortable with it, I'm okay with it. And then, of course, we'll have to make it work whatever happens mid-year if there is any concern with that.
Yeah. I mean, and to be honest with you, Anton, this was a guarantee we were given at budget hearings, so I think we about got to go with it if they're sure, and we'll have to keep a pulse on it.
Yeah. The only other concern I had was on fuel. Just in the last few weeks, we've been seeing a lot of discussion about increase on oil prices and fuel. And that's going to be a reality here, and it's probably not going to go away. So do we want to do anything with some of the fuel line items, whether it's highway, EMS, or sheriff? Do we want to leave those where they're at, or do we want to add a little more to those? Or do we want to just roll the dice and kind of see where we're at? A lot can change, of course, in 6 months, but that was the only other thing that kind of was on my list. So.
Well, any thoughts?
I'm satisfied with it. And I understand what you're saying. And it might be that we'll have to take another look.
My concern is, at the global level is, we're probably 6 to 8 weeks away from a, Iran breakout with a nuclear weapon. And what happens before then with our partners in the region, I don't know. But it could certainly be catastrophic for fuel prices.
But even if we changed it,
Yeah, what would we change it to? I have no clue. I'm just telling you that it looks pessimistic as far as what's on the possibilities on the horizon.
yeah, you shared some things, I appreciate it, and I hadn't heard those, but it makes sense with all the conflicts there in the Middle East. I don't know what it is a troubling, trying time.
It's going to be a moving target.
Yeah.
And one other thing, sorry, sheriff retirement. Normally, we did decide to budget in there the full gross amount, but if you recall, our procedure over the last several years was to utilize some of the resources that are in the civil process fee fund, as well as some sheriff sale related funds. I'm okay with leaving the dollar amount, the gross amount in the budget, but I want to make sure that we do, when it comes time to pay that we do exhaust those other funds first, like we normally would do, And then whatever's left is what we wind up spending from that line item, if everybody's in agreement with that.
I think we need to cross that bridge when we get there.
And those payments aren't due until December. We in the process, so we are a little bit ahead of paying them this year, but we had to figure out where to come up with the differences, so not that we wanna put it off until the last month of next year, but at least there's time to build those other funds that feed into it, that we can, we just need to remember not to do additional appropriations out of those funds for other reasons if we don't have to.
And speaking of that, not to put you on the spot, Sheila, but we talked about reconciling at the end of the year. Have you heard between your office and the treasurer's office, has there been any more talk as far as the timeline goes?
I know that they're scheduled with Lau on December the 14th to go through the numbers. Now, what will come out of that actual meeting, what this last time around when they came in, that was when they give us the numbers, when they process that. So I'm hoping, and that was the schedule that Lau gave to us to be here. So I'm assuming that it's gonna be right around that target date. I don't think it'll be the last week, but if it can be moved up, obviously, but if Lau is the one that is going through the numbers and we're on their schedule as of the 14th for right now.
All right, council, anything more off the top of your head before I ask the public to have a comment? All right, hearing nothing else, if department heads or members of the public have any questions, comments, or concerns about the budget for 2022, please raise your hand and let me know, and I'll open up the floor to you.
I heard revenue mentioned a minute ago. Are there estimated revenue figures, and how accurate are those at this time?
Okay,
Well, this is spending money.
Yeah.
Where are they coming from?
Yeah.
DLGF is in the process of helping get those numbers together. More than happy if you wanna leave contact information as soon as we get them. I'm hoping that maybe in the next couple days we'll have at some figures. I don't know if Anton has any pre-numbers yet. But that's part of entering it in the thing, and then tonight's budget and working with DLGF starting in the morning to get all of it pulled together. But I'll get it to you. Can I get your name?
Terry McMorrin.
Terry McMahon.
So, Terry, just to answer the revenue part of it, at this point in the year, the state does have a revised income tax revenue estimation that they've issued, which is usually more accurate than the August estimate. And I think we saw those numbers and they didn't really change much from what I see here on the totals. So they're pretty similar to what we had in August. And those are numbers that they eventually certify or guarantee to us that we get on a monthly basis. So those would be pretty solid. The property tax levy is already set and is a set limit that we work with, so that doesn't really change. The real unknown is on the miscellaneous revenue. Other sources of money that we get from fees and financial institution tax, vehicle and aircraft, even our MVH money is sometimes variable depending on fuel consumption and things throughout the state. So some of that is a bit more variable at times, but we've got as accurate a numbers as we could possibly have now at the moment to work with. So.
Angie.
On my budget, I just wanna let you guys know, I was at a real shortfall last year with my part-time. I'm here again tonight in the regular meeting about that. Whether I run again and am re-elected, I haven't decided if I'm gonna run yet, but if I do and I'm reelected, that's something at next year's budget hearing we're really gonna have to address.
Were you, so has there been a change since budget hearings on, were you here for budget hearings?
I don't think I was.
Okay.
Honestly.
Do you know, so did we put in our numbers from last year, as a baseline for that? Was there any?
Yes, she was one of them, that you guys just kept them as the same at the end of that
I mean,
meeting.
I knew that we were hurting money-wise, and there really wasn't any sense in coming forward and asking for more for next year, because I knew it probably wasn't gonna happen anyway.
So what line are you most worried about? What type of
My
expense?
part-time,
Okay.
so I was close to $5,000 over last year, and my projected numbers, and at the rate we're going, we're gonna hit what we did last year, if not exceed it. So I'm already looking for $5,000.
What kind of case numbers are you seeing right now? Do you?
So we're at 45 cases for the year,
Okay,
and we finished last year with 60 cases.
got it. Okay, so right now, the way we usually come up with the number to put in that line item is we have a set amount per case that's paid out. And we still have 40 as the number of cases that are in there. So if that is something that might need to be adjusted, the thing to do would be up our case estimate from that number, and then we can produce whatever new total is needed if the council decides to make that adjustment. So right now, we're at 40 cases based on the rate that's approved. It comes out to a little over $7,000. Just as an example, if you put 50 cases in there, it would be about $8,850. And if you put 60 cases in there, it'd be $10,600. So there's a little bit of a range there from 7,000 up to 10,006, depending on where you estimate the cases to be. And that's a tough thing, obviously. We want them low,
Yeah,
but
I mean, they just keep going up,
Yeah.
So with that, and the reason, glide path wise, I mean, clearly we could say, well, it's this month, but I know that, you know, like holidays, for example, there's more
yeah,
domestic violence, or, you know, so what is that number you think that we're going to end up with at the end of the year?
I mean, looking at where we was last year, looking at where we're at now, we're pretty much
On the same.
about right at the same thing, maybe a couple cases. But our busy season, as we call it, is November, December.
Okay, that's what I wanted, yeah.
Yeah, and that's kind of hard because it's at the, you know, it's at the end of the year, so
Right.
you don't really know what you're gonna have.
Wait, is there any, as far as the budget, is this something that we wanna look at, you know, as 2022 goes by and keep a pulse on? I mean, clearly, we're within probably $2,000 to $3,000, and we could adjust that budget hearings for next year if we stay on the same path, or is this something that you guys wanna look at now?
Do you know what we spend on part-time now, Sheila?
7082 is what we got projected to spend, which is 40, which is,
Which I'm already over that. 45.
sorry to answer for Sheila, but,
well, you know, this is,
She's on your agenda tonight for an additional appropriation. She's $598 left in her part-time line item right now, so she's requesting another $5,000 for this evening's additional appropriations. Or transfer, actually, she's transferring. She does have money in another line item to transfer into, but will that 5,000 carry her through to the end of the year? That's the unknown.
Yeah, and that seems like a bit of a jump, because if you take 5 and add the 7, that's 12, but we haven't had that many cases. So I'm wondering, you have some times where you have 2 people on a case maybe?
Yeah.
And so this number, just for clarity, the 40 is a per deputy case.
Right, and then,
And so you might have 2 deputies on a case, so,
right.
you know, then you technically then would only have 39
And
cases,
that
but.
that price that they pay, or paid, has increased pretty much every year, but our amount for the budget has not matched it, you know what I'm
Okay.
saying?
So we want to think of it in terms of, you know, deputy per case type of number, rather than just straight up cases.
Right.
Because you might have one where you're gonna have 2 people go to on a run.
Now, they're paid a separate, if there's 2 people on a scene, it's paid, they're paid differently. So one is the lead investigator, and one would be an assistant investigator.
Yeah,
So,
we don't have that designation in our system, so I'm not sure.
right,
We might need to talk more about that, but at the moment, we just have 1 rate per person per case. So,
So what's the amount of money with this transfer, Sheila, that we're going to end up spending this year for part-time in, coroner?
Well, she says she has $598 in there left right now.
well,
Do you have any
that was 2
claims?
weeks ago.
Did she start out with 7082?
Yes.
Okay, all right, that's what.
So if you add this 5,000 to it,
Okay, so we're looking at 12.
then I think that total is a bit of a big estimate. I don't think she would spend anywhere near even half that amount. I think that's just the amount that's available that you can transfer.
Right.
Well,
And the money, because that would be coming out of my autopsy center. So,
So it's like 9,500, a more accurate number
for,
rather than the 7082?
yeah, I mean, it's trending.
I would say we make the adjustment. It's simple to do. There's only 2 line items that are involved here that Sheila can do, and it's within our advertising limitation, because it's already an issue, and it's gonna be an issue next year if we don't do anything with it anyway.
Right, and I'm kinda at where I'm really kinda nitpicking which ones I autopsy and which ones I don't, in
Sure.
order to save that money, because I may need it to pay my people.
Yeah, so that number I threw out there is just a number. What do we think, folks?
So if we do 55 deputy case units, then it'd be 9,738.
Okay,
Then the FICA would be 1,461.
$1,461.
Yeah.
say that total again.
So the new amount for part-time would be 9,738, and then FICA would be 1,461.
All right, at this time, I'll entertain a motion if this adjustment's something that you guys wanna,
I'll go ahead and make the motion as presented.
okay?
I'll second.
All right, motion on the floor by Anton, seconded by Nick. For the adjustment of the corner part-time to 9,738 and the FICA to 1,461. Discussion? Hearing nothing else, we'll call for a vote. All those in favor? 6-0. Any other, yes, sir.
Thank you, guys.
Under, my local roads and streets, the council agreed to pay my grant match out of the edit. I still have, showing $100,000 in local road and street, for grant match, and that needed to be split in stone, gravel, and bituminous hot mix.
Stone, bituminous and what? Stone, bituminous and,
Yes, it's the split between the stone, gravel, and aggregate, other aggregates, and bituminous and hot mix.
So your grand total was still 800,000,
Yes.
and we had 357,500 in stone, gravel, aggregate, and 357,500 in bituminous and hot mix,
Yes.
and then 85,000 for culverts,
Yes.
and that totaled the 800,000.
Yes.
Okay. Just must have not been updated on that other sheet,
so you're saying on this sheet.
I'm guessing, yeah.
Sheila, are we tracking? Good. Anything else? Yes, sir.
And just to follow up with Greg, we've been working together. One of the concerns, and this is nothing about the budget, can be changed, but in the past, the annual bids that have went out, they've been for a fixed price for the stone, the supplies, the fuel. The Indiana statute allows for more of a flexible. My concern is that in order to get bids next year, it maybe have to be more of a fluctuating price, meaning that Owen County would not get the guarantee of the price in January. There may have to be more expenses. The amount coming in is going to be the amount coming in, but it is just something to probably be aware about based on the percents, based on speculation that oil's going to be $100 a barrel, those type of things. We just may not have that same guarantee in 18, 19, 20, and 21 where it's a fixed price. It may be more effective.
Example, we would notify commissioners, I let them know last week, but our yearly bids on, our culverts and our plastic products, our vendors will no longer honor those. Steel is up 204%. That was what we were advised last week. I was contacted by that vendor today, said it may be up another 100% on top of that. Plastic resin is up 300%. So we're just gonna have to work within the budget of what those are. Besides, we know everything else we use is petroleum products, so.
I feel like, at least on a quarterly basis, if you could give us an update of that so that we can kind of see how, how your revenue is going to be affected. Anyone else? Jeff?
Hi, my name is Jeff Marks. I'm a resident of Morgan Township. I'm here this evening. First, I want to introduce one topic. When we moved to Owen County, I found people in Owen County were pretty much live and let live and very hospitable to one another and so on. In all that's occurred across the board, we've gotten upset. I want us to try to get back to, and I hope you will not take any of my comments tonight personally, because I do not intend to be personal. So just so you understand that I'm not making personal comments. Hopefully you'll understand that I'm not. Because I don't want to. I think it's the wrong thing to do. All right, so let's start with the top line number. $16.9 million is what this 2022 budget, proposed budget is. I'm sorry, $16.7, $16 million. So, do we know what it was in 2021? Does 15.6 sound right?
Yeah,
Okay, that's what LGF says, so 15.6, okay. I'd like to turn our attention to, in particular, the fact that I've noticed in the 2022 budget an extensive growth in a number of areas. Group insurance, liability insurance, workman's comp. And those items seem not to appear elsewhere before. And it looks like we might be spending, does this sound right to you folks, about $1 million for group insurance in 2022?
I'm glad you brought that up, because, and I think we've got some folks that can help us understand that in the room, but proceed.
Okay. $1 million for group insurance in 2022. I'm not a person in the insurance business. I would like to ask the council to have an understanding of the rate increases. If there are rate increases, are a function of the general economy or claims activities on the part of the county. One of which we have no control over, one of which we have some.
I've got some council comments. We've also got a councilman here that is in the insurance industry. I'd like for the commissioner, Gary Burton, who's dealt with them, and maybe even Greg here to jump in as well, if you're willing to. But
You tell me when.
go.
Jeff, as far as group health insurance, it's actually been reduced by $137,000 in 2021, and will be the same in 2022. It was $1.1 million previously, and some change. I can tell you that from 20 to 22 is a $274,000 savings over the previous rates.
So what I don't see where it showed up, and was it all in general in 2021 budget?
It was not put in by the previous auditor, period.
So it didn't show up in the.
Didn't show up anywhere.
But we paid.
Yes.
Thank you for that. Okay. The next item I'd like to point out is related to the sheriff's budget. It turns out, and I'm sorry he's not here, I'm sure he's going to answer for these. And I think I understand most of it anyway, but so his budget in 2021 was $2.4 million, $2.397 million. And now it's $2.990 million, most of which is coming out of the personal safety income tax, the new income tax. It looks like, again, most of those increases were a function of the group insurance, the other insurance, what's it called?
Workers' comp,
Liability
liability.
and liability insurance. So it all looks like $120,000 for cars. I see all that. What concerns me is we're at $2.99 million, okay, in the sheriff's budget. The projection of the revenue to be raised out of this new income tax that we're now going under was $3.063 or $3.036, I'm not sure what, million. Have we gone through all that already and we have no buffer for anything else related to jail or anything like that? Because if we have, that's a concern going forward. And finally, I have a question which I have no concept of. I came from corporate business, okay? In corporate business, we have a thing called a capital budget and an operating budget. This budget looks all mixed up, okay? There's capital items in there, there's operational items in there, and so on. Do governments work differently? Or where's the depreciation and where's all that kind of stuff that you would normally have in the capital budget? So that's a question, I don't have an answer to it. But I would say that if we did have an answer to it, a lot of those capital items would have much lower operational impact if we could find the funds. Those are my comments.
Any comments? Jim, did you want to touch on any of that?
Yeah, I think I could answer a couple of things. Third, one, you're exactly right, as you broke it down, the sheriff's fund. The difference would be, though, if we want to be just, let's be completely accurate, the 2.9 million, not to the penny or not to the dollar, but that would be a much more accurate of what was spent in 2021 than 2022. What this has done, rather than, let's say, group insurance was now being paid out of the Commissioner's General Fund. The Sheriff's Vehicle Rotation was paid out of 7332 for 120,000. Same things I'm talking about as far as liability insurance and workman's comp. Those were real costs, but they were being paid out of A, B, and C. It was still $2.9 million. What this has done is taken the sheriff's budget and put it all, in essence, one place. And so now, where it was 2.9 in 2021, it's 2.9 in 2022. So that would be point one. The other one about the jail, there's two streams of revenue coming in for the possibility of the jail. One is the new sheriff's fund, which will get a number. The other is out of the correction facility tax at 1233. Based on prior revenues of 70,000, the expectation is that about $850,000 would be raised for the new jail, and that at this point is not to be touched, barring an emergency. So if the sheriff can stay under, and the jail doesn't have to be, that's where the $1 million would come in as far as what's going to be needed for the new jail. So those would be the kind of the two distributions.
Yes, so nothing with respect, I'll come back to that and say, fine. That then says that the facility thing that you set up, okay, set up earlier, is not the gating factor for the cost of the jail. It can't be more than $840,000 times 19 years.
Only if this is, as was presented by the sheriff and by the council, this is the budget for 2022. This was made very clear in those discussions. 2023, 2024 would have to be different. Your point is beyond well taken. The cost of the jail is the cost of the jail, as ignorant as that sounds. That's going to be the guide. That has been estimated in the range of 22 to 24 million. After this year, the problem being, it still goes back to the general fund, the fact being basically in the red for the past 2 years. That may not continue. That must cease on January of 2022. That's what all of these boxes and everything are aimed at, as resolving that issue. There's the time clock will start on January 1st in the jail. Very difficult complexities for the council in looking at 23, 24, 25 to meet those numbers.
Thank you. Anything else? All right. At this time, we need to vote on anything tonight regarding this.
I don't think so, because that's the purpose of your meeting on October the 25th for the final adoption. Other than, I mean, you've already voted to increase for the amount for the coroner's office and the corrections to Greg's line item specific. But the new total would be $16,775,137.
So just to be safe, considering our tight timelines and we don't get a redo on advertisement, would it hurt to go ahead and make a motion to accept this updated number?
I think we should.
Permit? Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and make a motion that we adopt the numbers and budgets as presented with the action we took on the coroner's part, already figured in, and allow the auditor to input those and put things into place for our final adoption hearing on October
25th.
the 25th at 7 o'clock.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Polly. Motion on the floor by Anton, seconded by Polly to, that the budget reflects the number 16,775,000 and what?
137.
137.
That's the total. The general fund new balance would be 39,787,80.
Further discussion? If nothing else, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor?
Jeff,
6-0. What were you saying?
Jeff had,
Oh, I'm sorry. Sir.
So, would the auditor be willing to go back and check the number? It looks like the number you had, 16, whatever it was originally, didn't include the firearms training, $26,000, which came in at some point. So I think the number's higher, but if you could check it.
Can you facilitate that request, Sheila?
What's it? It's not in here.
you're saying that 26,000?
Yeah,
There's a
26,000.
different number in this because it changed the new line number, the new state code number is different, but the 26,000 is included.
Okay.
Okay. Is there anything else from this council? All right, we have a meeting, regular meeting at 7 p.m.
Motion to adjourn.
Close the hearing.
Close the hearing.
You're already closed here. Hearing's closed at this time, and meeting's adjourned at 7.
Hey, you know, thanks to that Penske on this WTIU over. Yes, sir. So you guys just, this is the public hearing for the 22 budget, right?
Yes, sir.
And you guys are gonna do the first draft in the next meeting and then adopt?
No, actually, so, last meeting was really the first draft, after hearing tonight, and, we'll vote at, our next meeting, which is
I think 1025? Yeah.
26th, 25th, I'm sorry, yeah.
Is the meeting that takes place next just a regular,
It's just a,
not a
I'll
budget?
show you,
Yeah, I saw that.
it's just, our normal.
Give us the new state.
Questions on
Yeah, actually, that was one, because I had some questions about just the different parts of the budget stuff.
I saw it called the whole thing, so it wasn't, so I added the 26,000, so you go off.
No, I mean, I would rather hear that it's not in there, but I do know that that was one we specifically had
So
to
you had that, okay, good, thanks.
do. Anton.
Yeah, and We're good over here.
All right, good evening, folks. Welcome to the regular scheduled October 12th County Council meeting. If you'd all rise, we'll go ahead and get the pledge done.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Terry, would you say a prayer for us, please?
Heavenly Father, it's such a privilege to live in a country that we can govern ourselves in formats such as we're at here tonight. We thank you for your divine wisdom, for our founding. We are a representative republic. We ask, Lord, for wisdom in this room tonight, for cool heads, as always, and be with the council as they address these agenda items. In the name of Christ, we pray.
Amen. Thank you. Okay, if you have taken a moment to sign in, please do so on the sign-in sheet. In front of you, council members, you have two sets of minutes dated September 13th, 2021 and September 28th, 2021. You'd review those, please, then we'll seek to approve or disqualify those minutes as needed. I do, while we're doing that, I want to make a quick announcement. Councilmember Chuck Hess is not here tonight. He is hospitalized. I don't know a lot of details, but if you would, please, the council's aware of this, and we've sent up prayers for him, but if you don't mind, keep Councilman Hess in your prayers, that he would recover quickly. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I find a correction in the minutes of September 13th in regards to the dates. It said our next meeting for final adoption would be 10/19/2020. I think it says in my final adoption would be 10/25.
That's a good point. That was an advertising error.
When this meeting was, that was the date that you said, in order to meet the timelines per the state, it had to be moved to the 25th. So.
And that's a really good catch. So, thank you. Any motion on this set of minutes needs to reflect that.
I make a motion to accept the minutes with that correction.
Okay. Motion on the floor to accept the minutes dated September 13th, 2021 with the correction of the date of acceptance, planned acceptance for the budget, seconded by Verl. Further discussion? And then I'll call for a vote. All those in favor? 6-0. We've got the September 28th minutes as well. if you reviewed those, I'm gonna call for a motion.
I'll go ahead and make a motion. We approve the September 28th minutes as presented.
Do I hear a second? Motion on the floor by Anton, seconded by Polly to approve the minutes dated September 28, 2021. Anything else on this? Call for a vote. All those in favor? 6-0. Thank you. Moving along to old business. As we move into this, have we heard from the CASA coordinator, Sheila, anymore? Thought we were tracking it tonight.
She was asked to come tonight to represent what she had provided the last time.
I'm gonna,
Try calling if you want.
unless there's any new, we'll get to it, but unless there's anything new, we really didn't have the answers to the question last time, so I'm concerned that we wouldn't be able to deal with it tonight. Yeah.
Good evening, council. A few things, just kind of I guess more of the routines that we're doing. Start with the updated report. So I'm going to give you two different dates tonight that we're going to work on because the numbers have changed somewhat from September 30th to the October 12th. But as of September 30th, there were 13 funds in the red, total of $1.3 billion, rounding up, and then those 13 funds. Since that time, from the 30th, 2 of these have been resolved. The auditor has really spent hours on this, but Fund 4017, the 911 Dispatch Center project, that is being reconciled, so on the report in November, that will no longer be in the red. The 4-cent problem, we took way beyond the total of 4 cents, but that 7331, lead public safety, has been resolved also, so that will be reflected in November, so that drops us down to 11. In the good news fashion, in 4914, that was in the red, approximately $4,323. That's already could be reconciled, but when I talk about kind of the good news, there's still some revenue coming in, so rather than just take all of that out of the general riverboat, the lead and riverboat, just waiting to make sure we can determine exactly how much more revenue is coming in at the end of the year. So in any case, by the conclusion of the year, it will be zeroed out. Possibility is that we will not have to expend as much as we thought of lead or riverboat to resolve that one. So that's why it still could be, I guess, roughly in the range of maybe $1,000, $1,500, more of that range we wouldn't have to pay. So those 3 funds, I think 2 can be safely put resolved in November. The other one definitely working in there. Your other funds, as far as what keeps in double digits, are primarily grant reimbursement funds. Now, those are not going to be in zero. What happens in many of these grants, an expenditure is made, then the claim is then submitted to the grant and it's paid. Most of these funds are in the range of $2,000 to $3,000, obviously manageable, but there's as many as 6 of these funds. So now that we're down to 10, 6 of those are really going to be what we call the grant funds. That will not be a serious impediment going into 2022. So even if there is 6 or 7 funds in the red of roughly 10,000, as long as they're all grants, totally manageable. So very good progress by all the departments that have worked on here. Our general fund, very important, I believe I wrote down, it's 49 days until November 30th. The idea is to get that as close to zero as possible. There's progress that's been made. As of the 30th, it was $355,000. It moved up. You say, well, how's that possible? We're not paying it, but payroll is being paid. So one of the payrolls has hit for October. It's a little bit of an anomaly, and I'm not really sure why. We're going to check into that this week. Normally, by this time, the first amount of the receipt, roughly $200,000, is deposited in general fund. That just simply has not occurred. No reason to think that it's not. No reason. I just bring that up because had it been reversed, would have been reporting a negative balance of about $200,000, and that's the direction you want it to go. Other area is that the public defender, they have a reimbursement. So the county pays, used to be out of the general, now it's out of lit ed for all the public defenders for Owen County. That bill is then turned into the state and there's a reimbursement. That has not come in for a few months. Very high expectation that November, December, several months of that reimbursement should be coming in. Also, the good news of lowering it. Things about cautious about it, we're basically, for everyone taking a look at the general fund, finding avenues of dormant funds, of where it's very easy to say, oh, well, this should have been paid out of a different fund. That window is narrowing. I think it's going to be very difficult for this final 200,000 to get it at zero. Why do I bring that up is, council, I think at the November meeting, if you would set aside some time, by that time we're gonna have a real good idea of what's left in lit edit. We're gonna have a real good idea of Riverboat, and also for the sheriff fuel reimbursement. May wanna have a discussion of taking that balance in those funds and seeing, do we wanna go back into the July and try and expend some of those out. From the recommendations, mine, just take my opinion or not, that's important, but from recommendations from Crow and from Peters, there's been a unanimous decision of getting that general as close to zero as possible. So, although I need to be factual, the balance is right now $416, 331 cents and 5 cents in the red. Please keep in mind that does not include the 200,000 that we absolutely expect to be receipted in, and the public defender and some of the dormant funds we probably may be able to address either at this commissioner's meeting or the first one in November. So the good news is that it's not growing. That is not occurring. It's getting into a balance, but it is going to take hard work in this next 49 days. In looking at claims, every 2 weeks in there, I can report quite candidly, the departments are basically not spending. I think that you're finding from department after department that every, what you would call non-necessity, there are no claims for that. The last 2 claim cycles, as far as what's been coming out of lit edit and coming out of Riverboat, have been under 50,000. Now, the last claim cycle itself was approximately 449,000, but that was out of funds not involving the general lit edit or Riverboat. Those were claims of the highway. So that is doing well. For Riverboat, just a couple reminders, Riverboat is 1191. There are 7 line items that council has appropriated money towards. I will not, that you should have these, but I won't just read them all, but just to give you an idea, there's still over $240,000 in appropriations still remaining in these 7 funds. So.
That was a question I had, Jim.
Sure.
That column title says cash balance, as really should it say unexpended?
Unexpended.
Okay.
In there, that would be
That's what I was
probably more
thinking.
accurate, more technical. What that means is that is the unappropriated, but it is backed by cash money.
Sure.
This is not imaginary or out there. This is completely gold standard backed. But there's still 240,000 appropriations with the cash balance that will take us through the next 49 days. I think all of those look well, even though there's 100,000 utilities, that's the one to look at the most in there. That's the one that needs to be monitored weekly, and that's been done. Lit edit, so in lit edit, there's two line items that have, again, the appropriation, and it is backed by the corresponding cash. One is supplies, and that's the 20,000 series, and then 30,000 is other services and charges. There's 325,000 left in supplies. There's 295,000 in other services and charges. It's the 30,000 got to be watched weekly. That even though I said, well, it's a lot of money, it is 295,000, but that is bearing the brunt of most of the claims and most of the expenses coming in. That, in my opinion, is going to be very, very close, especially depending on how much needs to be used in that in December. But the supplies, I think is a fair amount. I think that we can safely say that the 325, the 295, and keeping the tradition of me repeating myself over and over, got to watch that. That requires a weekly monitor of that fund. Saying that, with lit added, with the amount of money that you expect that would be coming in, with that, there's still a balance. That balance or that cushion is in the range of 200, but I'm estimating high. That's it. If that balance, man, that is a hard cap. There will be nothing more coming in that fund, and that's using the projections of the revenue for October, November, December. So that cannot be. So keeping that in mind, always before, as you headed into as a council, in 2019, 2020, 2021, there was a substantial cash balance going from one year to the next. That will not happen. That absolutely will not happen this year. It's going to be whatever remains. There's some bills coming in. Got to watch the supplies, and if anything goes wrong in this next 49 days, I mean, this is your main source. So I would just urge. I will continue to monitor and notify you. But at this point, going into this claim cycle, there's good balances in all of these line items.
Question for you, Jim.
Sure.
On loan payment, you had 125,000, which is pretty much a hard figure.
That's the 10,417 times 12 for that particular one. Yes.
So the expenditure shows 135.
Correct.
So I wonder where's the difference?
Sure. So
from?
it's purely accounting. When at the beginning of this year of 2021, in the loan payment, there was the 125,000 for the 10,417 per month. Also in that same line item was about 84,500 appropriated for the storage units. 42,000 was paid out of lit added. The other I'm rounding numbers now. The other 42,000 was paid in essence by the sheriff's funds. But as far as the appropriation, what happened, the whole 84,000 appropriation left, but you still had all the 10,417, and you still had that roughly 42,000. So that's an accounting that needs to be a correction made, recognizing that 42,000 plus the 125,000 was actually expended out of that line item.
See, now I thought we had a different line item though for the
We did
storage
not.
units, so.
No, we should.
So the council approved that.
You did.
But then it wasn't done.
You did.
Okay,
Right.
just
So,
want to make sure we're good there.
Council completely approved it. Let's just call it line item A and line item B. They both went in the same
Okay.
line item, and I will admit that has caused some slight confusion over this year.
Well, that makes more sense now, so
Sure.
we're good, okay.
So the original appropriation was $4 short, and the difference needed would be, to zero it out, would be $41,672. And DLGF did say that we can zero it out. It just has to be done with a motion and.
So we look at that, looking ahead, so there's another claim cycle coming up this Monday. At least at this point, there's nothing that's standing out. I would expect that the third quarter insurance, liability insurance, those probably will hit sometime between now and December 31st. Remember that the liability is not on the Owen County fiscal year. It's on their own calendar year from March to March, and we're January to December 31st. So I would expect that significant one. A few others, the highway funds are looking better than were projected. Again, nothing that we need to say, let's go build 10 bridges or anything like that. So please, another cliche I always use, please no one hear what I'm not saying. But as far as keeping a positive balance, there's some positive looking at that, and that is the value or the credit for that 100% to the highway department. They have looked at every penny, they've looked at every claim, and by doing this type of work, that's the reason. So I just want to be crystal clear. There's also the wheel tax. That October distribution has not occurred either, so they still have due to them their MVH, their routine local, road and street account, and also the surtax, for the wheel tax, all that still needs to be receipted in, and they still have positive balances in all of those. So that is actually tremendous work by the highway department. That would be the summary. We are cautiously looking well. All payroll is being made, all claims are being paid. There is no issue with that whatsoever. Your departments have responded to the call of minimizing it. But if I use two cliches, three's better. Not out of the woods, not out of the woods, not out of the woods. If you do not have to spend it, don't. If you need to spend it, don't. Let's just keep on that process. And let's work on these next 49 days. When we come back at November, we'll need to probably take the hard look on the shifts, looking at the general, looking at lead edit, looking at riverboat on how to get those balances exactly where you want them to carry them into 2022.
Thank you, Jen.
Appreciate it.
I'll ask you and Sheila, is there anything more as far as the PSET, lid tax increase review? Is there any, do you guys have anything on that at all?
Nothing's changed on that anyway.
We had a public hearing, at 6 o'clock tonight regarding the 2022 budget. Council members, do you have anything more on that?
No, but I did have another question for Jen. There's your other memo where you talked about areas where we might be able to help the general fund, and I think I sent an email to you on this. Was that confirmed as far as the split?
So I'm gonna use broad numbers, 28,000 and 28,000, the way it's done. So 28,000 will be deducted in October, the other 28,000 in November. That will square the highway department in all areas for liability insurance, workman's comp, in all those areas, they will be in essence paid up. It also, I think, will be helpful to the highway that they know there's nothing else owed in those areas.
That's true.
Yeah, 28.
So do we need to take action tonight, a little bit later down in the agenda on that second payment? Are we ready to do that, or do we need to wait a little longer? Because we were concerned about cash flow, and that's why we split it. Are we still good to do it for November, or, okay. Okay, just want to make sure.
Okay. All right, if you look in your packet, you'll have a transfer of funds for autopsy. We touched on this earlier, but the bottom line is the amount of autopsies that are being done is went up significantly, and you guys can read through the explanation, but the bottom line is Angie wants to transfer from autopsies 1,000.007.20300 fund line to part-time. And whenever I say autopsies, she's talking about part-time individuals who respond to these deaths. And so she wanted to transfer from autopsies to part-time, and that fund is 1,007.12500. I'll open that up.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and make a motion that we allow the transfer as our president had presented.
That was in
$5,000, sir. Yes, sir.
I'll second that.
All right. Motion by Anton, seconded by Nick, for the amount of $5,000 from autopsies to part-time. Discussion. If nothing else, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor? 6-0. Thank you. All right, as stated earlier, we don't have a council representative tonight. You'll see in there the email that we talked about the last meeting, and Sheila or I, who is the council liaison?
Beth Eaton,
No.
who's your liaison? I don't,
Does anybody know who the liaison?
Well, I
You're the courts,
work with
yes.
courts, yeah.
Yeah,
And again, she had talked about this several months back in June when we were looking for ways to save some money. And she had mentioned this in kind, and there was a discussion about certain items that could count as our match. But there's a big difference between things that we may be already paying for that we're just simply not claiming versus new things to count and add as in kind. And I think some of the items that were on the report she provided, we don't currently pay for or provide. So the concern is, which is the area where we need some clarity, is, which items would be considered existing that we can capitalize on with essentially no impact to us, and then which items would be considered new that would actually cost us in some way. So we need to kind of have that discussion with her to kind of clarify.
agreed. So let me ask you this, would you mind touching base with her as?
I can give her a call.
Okay. Moving to additional appropriation requests. Bear with me 1 second. Sheila, which one of these is seeing a lot from the?
It's the big long one. Last one listed on these EMS.
Got it. Okay, so the last meeting that we had, I think myself and Anton read this appropriation request. So do we have anyone else tonight that wants to read this? If not, I will. But if you have any sympathy, speak up. All right, so here is the appropriations that Greg's requested. So from Coombe Bridge to bridges in the amount of $28,572.42. From Coombe Bridge to culverts in the amount of $30,000. From local road and street to stone for $163,647.85. From local road and street to stone in the amount of $100,000. From local road and street to bituminous for $50,000. From motor vehicle fund to other services for $10,000. From motor vehicle fund to the grader lease for $3,000. From the motor vehicle fund to right-of-way maintenance, $5,300. From motor vehicle fund to employee drug testing, $1,135 for $1,135. From drug court grant to contract services for $7,500. Drug court grant to training. This isn't you. Yeah. Sorry, I started out with you, but
All right, thank you.
this is also probation, dispatch, and EMS. From drug court grant to incentive, $350. From sheriff's donation fund to the donation fund, $50. From PSAP lit to the dispatch project, $17,177.39. Owen County Sign Fund to the sign fund at $25, and from EMS fund cash to regular wages, $6,041.
And I'll second that if you're willing to do a friendly amendment to exclude the $50 from the donation fund.
Who made a motion?
You did. Are you making that motion?
I was just reading.
Well, I'm gonna go ahead and make a motion that we, proceed, with the appropriations with the exception of the sheriff donation fund, $50. That can be done in a separate motion.
Okay. Can I hear a second? Seconded by Nick, with a whisper by Polly, I think he got you. All right, further discussion? Okay, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor? 6-0. Now, that was the sign, Anton, $25, $50.
$50 sheriff donation fund.
Sheriff's donation fund, of $50 to donations fund. Do I hear a motion to approve this?
Make a motion.
Nick, do I hear a second? Earl, second. All right, all those in favor? It's 5. All those against, all those abstaining, 1. You good, Madam Auditor? Okay. Is there anything on those additional appropriation requests? You've got
a couple new ones tonight that'll be brought up when Greg and Donna come up that weren't in time for this
we're
advertisement.
good for where we're at.
Yes.
All right. EDC reports. Hello, Marcy.
Hey, already been here a long time, I will try to keep it short. But I do have a report to give you tonight. I'm not asking for anything, simply want to do just some education because we have a lot going on in Owen County with economic development, and it's really important that we all understand the 3 focuses that are before us. The first thing I just want to mention to everybody is that you are all aware that with your help, we've been able to receive a $60,000 planning grant for our comprehensive plan. We hope to begin that comprehensive plan next month. The first part of doing that was to go ahead and put a steering committee together, and we have accomplished that. We have our steering committee all ready to go, and tomorrow I'm reaching out to Scott Burgens of HWC Engineering. They're the consulting agency. They're going to help us with our comprehensive plan, and we're going to go ahead and figure out our timeline. This plan will take the next year to complete, and so for us to send that in. But just so that you all know, we are looking underneath this comprehensive plan as an umbrella of about 6 different arms to this plan. And these arms are really important as we continue on with tonight's EDC report. You'll see how those fit in. With housing, sewer and water infrastructure, childcare, and so forth. Okay, so the comprehensive plan is doing really well. Just want to kind of give you an update on that. The next thing I wanted to discuss is the Arpa Funds. So the American Rescue funding, I say ARPA, I can have an American Rescue Plan Act policy recommendations. So this is a paper that you have in front of you. This is a recommendation form from Economic Development. The county is receiving, and you all know this, about $4 million in ARPA funds to be able to invest back into the community, as well as the town has some ARPA funds that they're investing. Economic Development has listed at the very beginning, at the background section, the areas that the U.S. Department of Treasury allows us to use those ARPA funds because we have to, maintain putting them and reinvesting them only into those specific areas that are outlined, with water, sewer, and broadband infrastructure being listed as number 4. There are 3 different suggestions that Economic Development would like to bring, but the one that I would like for us to focus on is number 3. And it says, as we think about how we're going to use these ARPA funds, that we need to make focused, transformative investments and don't spread the funds too thin. When we have $4 million, we need to make sure that we're using that money to the best of our ability. So we have laid out, the EDC has 6 different key areas just as a recommendation that I just wanted to bring to your attention. Housing, fast, reliable internet, water and sewer infrastructure, childcare, economic growth, and COVID-19 recovery. So those are the 6 recommendations that the EDC wants to bring before you for those ARPA funds. Yes?
You want to share with the council as far as connectivity,
about broadband, right? Okay, so on Wednesday of this last week, we did have the Lieutenant Governor come for our EDC roundtable. She was joined by the President and CEO of SCI-RMC, as well as the President of Endeavor, and then the Vice President of Smithville. Owen County is extremely fortunate that we have 3 local broadband providers who are working together, even though that they compete with one another. They have decided, and there was a quote by James Tannenberger, he's the SCI-RMC, they figured out after discussions that basically, to all 3 of these companies, community was more important than the bottom line. That is wonderful. That doesn't happen anywhere. In fact, the Lieutenant Governor mentioned that's not happening anywhere else in Indiana. So Owen County is leading the way in how we're going to be able to get broadband to every single citizen. These 3 local broadband providers have build-outs that they are working on, that they are going to complete by the end of 2023, that will provide internet to all of rural Owen County. They're not focusing on the Spencer area, but they're focusing on all of the rural areas. Way out there in Clay City, in Quincy, Patricksburg, you name it, they're going to have internet, which is going to be a game changer for Owen County. So our broadband plan is going very well. We just have a few small areas, town of Spencer with a little donut area around it, that is a piece of the puzzle that we are working on. But again, as we continue to move forward and we understand that the ARPA funds can be used for broadband, that's just an area for you to consider. So the last plan, so we've talked about the comprehensive plan, we've talked about ARPA funds. The last thing I just want to bring to your attention is that on top of this, we have the Governor Holcomb has put together the READY initiative. The READY initiative is a one-time investment into the state of Indiana of $500 million. This $500 million is going to be distributed to different regions within Indiana. Owen County is part of the Upland region. The Upland region is an 11-county region, and we're joined by like Orange County and Monroe County. And so there is a timeline. That second piece of paper that I gave you tells you a little bit about the READY initiative. So in May and July, all of the communities of these regions were able to put proposals. So the EDC and the town put several proposals in to be considered for this READY funding, okay? The EDC put in 9, and I believe the town put in 7 proposals. We then sent those to the Upland ROI for them to put together for a strategic plan. In July and September, that strategic plan was supposed to be completed. I just received an email this evening. That plan is completely done, and it has been submitted to the Indiana Economic Development Corporation. In fact, all of you should have a copy of that plan in your inbox. And it's about a 74-page plan. It's a lot of reading, but it's really good stuff, okay? And so what's going to happen then is the Indiana Development Corporation is going to look through this plan, and they are going to figure out where they're wanting to put this funding. Again, each region has the opportunity to receive $50 million, okay? So this is where it all comes together, all right? So we can use the ARPA funds that we have as match for some of this funding for projects. So, you know, my whole thinking is we want to take the money that we have and this one opportunity to work for us to make more money for Owen County. And that's why we need to really be thinking about where we're going to be making these key investments and focusing them in areas that we know are going to be great impact. So I do know that there were 270 plus proposals put together for just our plan. Of those 270 proposals, 70 of them were chosen to go before the state for consideration. Of those 70, 2 proposals from Owen County were accepted into that READY initiative plan. And so I think, you know, hey, I know that's only 2, but that's 2 that we're in there for. So again, just wanted to bring that to your attention. The whole point of all of this is just so that you know there is a timeline. There's not a big push to spend the ARPA funds, but if we're going to use any of those ARPA funds as match for more READY funds, we have to appropriate those before January of 2022. So there is a timeline when you think about it. So we all need to be thinking about where we want to focus this growth for Owen County, how we want to use these funds to make more money, and how we can all work together to get that accomplished. Are there any questions? I know there's a lot of information, and I could tell you all the details about it some other time, but.
Questions? Marcy, I want to thank you.
No problem, I get pretty nerded out on this stuff, so. All right, well, thank you very much for your time.
Okay, Madam Auditor, I'm gonna turn item C over to you to talk about, if you don't mind. Is she here?
Christine had submitted a grant. The grants have already been approved, they've received the monies. She just basically presented a proposal to you guys to appropriate the funding into the correct line items.
And it's a new one,
This is, yes,
and it's for a public health emergency coordinator.
yes,
Is this like the third year of 3? Is that the same
this is fourth,
recurring? Okay,
yes.
already 4th year? Wow.
Already has a fund number, it's fund number 9162. And again, the funds have been received, some of them are, it's a reimbursements. The health department, some of the grants that Jim was talking about earlier, the 4 in the health department are reimbursable primarily. So again, they'll be in the red. She files each month with the state for the reimbursement amounts spent. And
Anybody else read this? And I'm being serious, cause I wanna know what we're doing here, so.
There we go. Senior version.
it looks like she was putting 22,000 in salary and 3,000 in supplies.
Okay. And you said the grant's been approved?
Yes. She has a couple other grants that she needs to bring and have actual budgets set for.
So the motion just needs to be that this is being received in.
And received in and appropriate into those 2 specific line items for claims.
All right, so does anyone wanna make that motion? All right, I'll make a motion that we receipt the $22,000 into the base salary line item, and as well as the $3,000 into supplies, a total of $25,000 for a grant for the health department. Is that clear enough? Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Anton for the discussion. Call for a vote. All those in favor? 6-0. Okay, highway.
Good evening, council members, ladies and gentlemen. Just a little update. Last time I was before you, I spoke with you in regard to Bridge 16 and some quotes. I have asked the commissioners to reject both quotes that we received on Bridge 16. After speaking with engineers, we do not believe that the best thing to do for Bridge 16 is to redeck it. I'm in the process now of getting a set of plans to take before the commissioners to ask that we build a bridge instead of decking the bridge.
Is this Rocky Hill?
That is right.
Okay.
I don't know whether I announced to you the last meeting or not, but Kelly Road Bridge is open. That was paid for with community crossing grant money. If anybody gets a chance, we'll take a look at it. It's a bridge, nice bridge, built with CLR.
Greg, do you mind if I ask a quick question?
Sure.
Back to Bridge 16. So, you know, we had some folks, it was either at the commission, I think it was a commissioner meeting, maybe the council meeting, but that were concerned, you know, there was some options. We didn't know if they were viable and temporarily for the future. Did you guys come to a conclusion on how that was?
Yeah, I could not get any approval from engineers from suggestion. I had suggestion from council members, those are things that, I'd already looked in before, but I didn't re-ask the question. The bridge remains closed because
Okay.
it's unsafe for travel.
Thank you. Sorry to cut you off, but.
Oh, no problem. Sugar Road Bridge, we'll be making repairs ourselves, which will save us some money regarding contracting. We're also going to repair the Dunn Road Bridge ourselves. We hope within the next couple of weeks. That being said, because a piece of our machinery hit a concrete culvert on Camp Auto Road over the weekend, we lost a concrete culvert there. We have a temporary runaround for Dunn Road. If we could get the bridge repaired, made there on Dunn Road, then I could remove the culvert, the temporary runaround, and put it in on Camp Auto Road. So again, saving ourselves some money there. And then the bridge on White Road, I still do not have a solution on it at this time. Community crossing roads, we started paving today on Steubenville. Milestone projects 4 days there. They'll be moving to Culross Road and then on to Fall.
Great.
So we are making progress. We were able to lay millings ourselves. We have laid millings on the Fall Creek, Childress, Locust Lake. We're laying Dillman. We're laying on Jones today, and then we have the product lay Bethsaida. It's a little different process because of the length of time it takes to travel. The product is on our lot during, and we will do Bethsaida within.
Speaking of Stephenville, were you able to sell your rail car culvert?
We actually did. We sold that online. And what did it right? It was $675.
Oh, wow, that's quite a bit more than the first time you sold it, right?
It was $22 the first time.
Good. Sorry.
Ray, on Bridge 16, do you have a time frame? I know you said you want to rebuild.
I think best estimate, and I'll refer to Jim, but we'll need to put that bridge out for bid. We need to see where our bridge fund is at that point in time. But we're talking, after we get an approved set of plans by the commissioners, at least 90 days on the bid process, and then a 3-month build.
So we're talking May of next year.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I had some interest, so I didn't put it. Okay, thank you.
Jim mentioned earlier the diligence you're giving your budget, and I want you to know we appreciate it very much.
Thank you. It's been tough work trying to stay where we're at, stay in the black with the way prices are this year. As I kind of reported earlier, vendors aren't honoring their prices even though we've had yearly bids because things have went up so much. Again, steel culverts 204%, plastic resin is up 300%. I was told today I could expect steel to go up even more. We'll just have to work within the confines of our budget with the prices that we have, because we all know what fuel's doing.
What about Hale Hill Bridge? Get it fixed?
No, but it will be as soon as we get these roads made. It will be done before winter.
You have anything else, sir?
It's got an additional appropriation to go on the November meeting. I don't think I can get them to the paper in enough time for the October 25th, but if we can, if we just need to. Yeah, they're gonna, it's in there.
Because of the raise in fuel, I'm going to request for the next meeting an added $50,000 for gas, oil, and lube. I mean, we're running really tight on fuel.
Are we advertising this tonight?
It needs to be heard. We can, per the state, go ahead and do it, but we still have to do the additional appropriation process.
Was that in our packet?
I don't Does that come out of my cash balance?
I didn't see it in the packet.
No, it didn't come in
New one.
until Thursday, I think it
Alright.
was. It came in on Thursday, so it wasn't in your packets.
I didn't expect for you to do that tonight, so thank you.
If not, it'll be December.
Yeah, we should get it in as soon as
We are having an extremely difficult time meeting the 5 days prior notice for a 10-day hearing and making it in a Wednesday paper. So you're looking at almost 3 weeks for any additional appropriations or processes or special meetings. So again, I will try to get it in the paper tomorrow. We also have one here for Donna tonight too. If they'll let me put them in there, I can add it to the 25th agenda that we're already gonna be at the meeting anyway. It would just be a quick added thing. If not, then it would definitely need to go on your November.
Okay, so this is, for motor vehicle highway, gas, oil, and lube, and it's coming from 1176.
Yes.
So we'll go ahead and,
I'll go ahead and make a motion, we go ahead and advertise $50,000 from Fund 1176 for gas, oil, and lube.
thank you.
I second.
Okay, motion by Anton, seconded by Nick, to advertise the amount of $50,000 to gas, oil, and lube from account 1176. Further discussion? Call for a vote. All those in favor? 6-0. Thank you. Do you want to give that to her again?
I would like to add, I really appreciate what Jim said about my budget being able to keep it flat. That's made possible by endless hours, Jim, Gary, Commissioner Burke and I working together, Sheila, Nick, Earl. I mean, we've all brainstormed to make this thing work, so I really appreciate that. So it's the highway department and we're a team.
I appreciate the teamwork as well, and our council liaisons that help you, and I'm glad that you mentioned that, because that's exactly what everybody's here for.
Thank
you. Okay. Is there a representative from the sheriff's department here? I don't think so. Chris?
All I have really is that, so far this year, we're running numbers 2,737. Last year, we just barely broke 3,000. We're going to go well over that again this year. So I would anticipate probably 3,300 runs if we keep on having that we're on that.
Did you have any luck with an admin assistant yet, as far as?
I haven't posted it yet. We are looking probably in November, first part of November sometime.
I will enter all of the additional appropriations. That's what I'm spending my day on tomorrow. And hopefully by this time tomorrow, he'll have approval to bring in his new person. So
That's really what scares me. And I know we've got a cash balance, but it scares me. I don't want to hire somebody and then turn around and the state say no. That's what's kind of holding me off. It's probably a shoe in, given the cash balance, but it's just falling off the conservative.
And on the ambulance, the rotation, because of the time for ordering and waiting, are you planning on putting that in soon, or have you already maybe done that?
I have not.
Okay.
I'm anxious to see if the budget gets approved. It's been put out there. I know we guys through your budget session last time we were here. You guys moved some money out of that. I just want to see that all that stuff goes through before I strap the county for $175,000.
Yeah, I mean, these numbers are good. Considering the delay on how long it takes to get an ambulance and how long we've waited so far with your rotation, I mean, I wouldn't see any, we've budgeted for it, we've got the revenue for it. We need the ambulance, you know, to help you out on that rotation. I mean, I wouldn't delay, but.
If I order it now, then midsummer before it comes in.
Right.
And, you know, with the amount of mileage you're putting on the other ambulances, you know, it might be, I mean, one way or the other, we're probably going to be spending on either repairs and upkeep or,
That's kind of where we're at before we started the rotation. I'm starting to see that again as the repairs are flying. It's a little bit of good news. We had that one ambulance that we thought was going to be $10,000 to $12,000 repair on it. We had it looked at by a different company. They came in and said, well, first of all, they said they didn't think that was the issue with it, that we were told by the first company. And their repair all is very expensive, and I don't want to give that number out because we're going to have to get close, but it did come in less. So that's kind of good news, and that's probably going to come out of cash balance to get that ambulance repaired. So once we get the folks in, I'll probably come to the next meeting for additional appropriations for repairs out of cash balance. So having an extra time to get people hired, honestly, it's starting at $12.19 an hour. That's a big deal. So I'm just doing that.
how many are you down right now?
I'm down 3 full-time and, you know, part-time again, as I've said before, they don't need any hours unless the full-time people take off, and I really need probably another 6 or 7 part-timers.
And how many do you have in the funnel?
I got one application today. Normally I could go to my drawer and have a stack of 30 applications sitting there. It's just not happening. That's a meeting today. Someone said that Bloomington Police normally when they open up their application process, they have over 200 applications. This year they had 29, so it's just.
Okay.
It's getting tough, but we'll work through it. Very neat.
You know, we talked after the meeting couple weeks ago. And I know you had a tough year, and I know you guys have had a tough year. We appreciate your service.
Yeah, it's. You guys have any
No, I just,
questions, concerns?
Keep doing the outstanding job you're doing.
you're a good leader.
We appreciate it.
Thank you, we appreciate it.
All right. Miss Dispatch.
So, I'm just gonna continue to roll the ball right where Chris left off. We have a hiring process that's currently open. I typically get in-hand paper applications, around 50 to 60 applications. I have 6. Of those 6, I can only take 4 onto interviews due to some background stuff. So I have 4 people to choose from for 2 open positions at this moment. Applicants aren't there, so it is what it is, so it's difficult.
Yeah, you know, I do want to comment on this because what we're seeing is, this is a real problem for Owen County. But you know, if you look at the trends on LinkedIn and other, this is a nationwide, I mean, Catalent, they're trying to You know, they've got 420 some open positions right now. And it's just across the board. And the wages are much more attractive, the benefits are so attractive. Now, I'm not trying to run our county in the ground, but it's just a problem across the board in every industry with every package, and it's extremely tough.
100%. So, yeah, that's my employment woes. So I will have before you guys at the next meeting, and I will also need to do an appropriation if there was a contract that was approved through the county commissioners to bring HICOM in. I believe I kind of talked about this a little bit, where we're gonna port our numbers over from AT&T over to HICOM. It's going to save us tremendously on our phone bill at the 911 center. So the paperwork has been submitted. HICOM's in the process of making contact with AT&T, notifying them that they will be taking control over those phone lines. So now we will only have 2 companies to call in case something goes down. If it's a 911 line, it's a digital. If it's an admin line, it's HICOM. We no longer have to call multiple different vendors to figure out who it is that is providing a service for a specific line. The bill for the equipment and everything that HICOM did, I just got that today, so I have not submitted the claim yet. But again, I will have to make the appropriation out of my cash balances to pay for that. Should get that into Sheila tomorrow for the November meeting. If it's in time for the November meeting, would I make it in time for the November meeting?
For an additional appropriation. If you give me the paperwork and you guys go ahead and approve to add it to the list. Do you know the dollar amount?
4,315, I think, something like that. 4,300.
Proceed with that.
Give me the paperwork.
Yep, I'll bring it to the office first thing in the morning. And then that is changing our monthly bill. Currently, right now, I believe between myself and the sheriff's department, I'm not sure if Chris is included in this one, in the AT&T bill, but that bill's just under $1,200. When you take my portion out of it, my monthly bill is only gonna be $159 a month. So we are greatly reducing that phone bill. So we're gonna test it out with the dispatch center for a little bit. I've talked to Commander Snodgrass at the jail. He said if it works good for us, he wants to implement it in the jail, which will then put it into the sheriff's admin building since they piggyback off of the phone system in the jail, and then we'll just kind of see how it goes from there. Radio project, we're kind of where we are. J&K come down, did an assessment, and I'm just waiting on them to order product and give me a timeline, so. That's all I can think of right now. That's the big stuff.
We need a motion.
Yeah, so what's the line item then that you're wanting that in, and what, is it 1235 or is it the other?
It is, I believe it'll be contract services. I think it's 1235. And I know the bill is 4,300 and some change. It's no more than 4,400.
Okay.
So 4,400?
I'm fine with that, yeah. I'll put that in.
Up to 4,400?
$4,400.
And I'll second that. Fund 1235, $4,400 for contract services. I'll second that.
Motion by Nick, second by Anton. Further discussion? Call for a vote. All those in favor? 6-0. All right, thank you for your service, Kathleen.
Kathleen, quick question on, you had that phone number change with the jail over. Has jail been getting direct calls now? Have your calls gone down? I'm just
No,
kind of.
our calls have not gone down.
Okay, I was just curious.
It takes about 2 months for the public to kind of learn the new number.
Right.
So we're also looking at possibly getting some additional inbound lines to the jail as well, because, there's only so many inbound lines that you have. One thing that we are learning is, people don't know what a busy signal is. So then they turn around and they call the 911 center saying something's wrong with the jail because we're getting a busy signal, or we're getting a tone like that. It's called a busy signal. So that's something that we've been able to educate the public on a little bit, but we're slowly starting to get there. We're not referring them to the 5757 number quite as much, but we're still getting a lot of them. But once people get it, they're not constantly calling us for the numbers.
It takes time.
Yeah,
I
it
just
takes
was
time.
curious on
So
that.
yeah, it's typically about 2 months. We're maybe a month in, so yeah.
Thank you very much. All right, if you guys look in your packet, item H is the EMA battery purchase. This is kind of a yearly thing that we normally do. It's for $250 for the purchase of batteries for the 800 megahertz portable radios.
I have here, I make the motion to grant that, I had a document.
Motion on the floor by Nick to approve $250 for the purchase of batteries. I believe that's out of the Sprint Nextel rebranding fund.
Rebranding, yeah.
Okay, here a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Anton. Further discussion? Call for a vote. All those in favor? 6-0.
That was one of the funds, it's fund number 4900 that was on the dormant fund list that has been removed because again, it belongs to EMA and OEPC.
All right, Donna.
Am I okay to stay here?
Yeah. I heard you say something during the talk on the jobs discussion. I thought I heard you mentioned something earlier. Or we were talking about it's hard to get people to.
Oh, yeah, well, yeah, we all just have it, I mean, just everywhere, it's kind of, don't want it everywhere, everybody's looking for it.
I didn't know if you are you seeing any kind of trend with your vacancies?
We haven't had an opening for a while, we will come in January, but I know other probation departments have had issues.
Okay.
And then I guess with that, can I start with something I guess first? Kathy is retiring this way. We are a person short, because we are a person short. And we did lose somebody, but we gained actually the court reporter from the judge's office. So we're kind of struggling a little now. We do have extra money in grant. It's part-time. There's 2 part-time positions that we're funding right now. And this year, there is a 3rd part-time position. It's already there. And Kathy is willing to come back 1 day a week just to apply. I mean, we just got so much paperwork. And so the position's already there, the money's there's nothing that we have to do anything different that's already there, I don't think, is there? I mean, everything.
No, I was just emailing you back. So essentially, we authorized about 1,700 hours a year towards her part-time pool for that line of work. She has some unused hours, she has some unused capacity from that total. And so, it's up to her if she wants to hire someone else or add more to somebody else, as long as she's within that limit and it doesn't exceed the budgeted amount. There's nothing special that we would have to do. And I think there was plenty to work with, maybe more than you thought, so.
Right. We may have to
Okay.
transfer something too,
Sounds
because
like-
that is the grant we want to use it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm not, so sure you put a price tag on maybe having that experience there, for an hour, or however much time that you're gonna have in there part-time, so. that's
Yeah.
a good thing.
and it'd be subject to the part-time rate though. But
Exactly.
longevity would apply because she would have less than the 90-day gap, so you'd still have an advantage there. So we can confirm the exact rate if you'd
Right.
like, and
And it's just gonna be 7 hours a week.
Yeah, that's not gonna be a huge
We just need
amount
somebody to do
for,
our files, put all the paperwork in the files and throw it in there. That just takes, I mean, if you've got 500 people that you deal with, that just takes a long time. And we were trying to divvy up the things, and there's just,
What else?
okay, I have tons of transfers.
Okay.
Okay, and I'm gonna go in the order that they were kind of, so hopefully everybody can kind of in there. The first one is just transferring, it's 8904, transferring it into adult probation user fees. What happened, we submitted a claim and there is no money in 8904. And you will always see 8904 is one of those grant funds that we have to spend the money, we have to show them the canceled check before they'll give us back the money. So this fund will always either be zero or in the red. It will never have extra money in there because you had to spend it before you ever get it back in. That's just how the fund works.
Okay, so just to validate, that's $301.59.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, the other ones are here, we took it out of 9153, these two claims, and it should have came out of 9155. So we just need 9155 to pay back 9153.
And that's $1,120.17.
Correct. Next, you'll appreciate this one.
Yeah.
But it is, you gotta have, it is what it is. My error, I put 13 cents and it was 3 cents. So it's 10 cents. I need to transfer. It's the same fund, but it's just different line items.
Okay.
It is what it is, yes.
Next is Justice Partners.
Okay, this is reimbursing adult probation users fees back. It comes out of the 9153 Justice Partners and goes into 20.
$6,066.06.
This one, it came, part-time just needs to reimburse wages. It should have came out of part-time wages, but it came out of wages. So the 25, the line item 12500 just needs to reimburse 1130.
$973.72.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, and then all of the rest of these, I'm pretty sure we can go through, is at the beginning of the year, funds were taken out of the old grant fund, and it should have came out of the new grant fund. And so to fix it, we used Series 50,000. That's the kind of, that's just a catch-all. But we really need to see, when we look at now, how much money we have spent in each of these line items. Because right now, 50,000 has, I think, $39,000 spent. So I need to know in wages how much has been spent, part-time how much has been spent, FICA how much has been spent, group insurance how much has been spent. All those need to actually have all that money taken out of there, so I know I don't overspend in all those line items.
Okay.
So it just reimburses it back.
Okay, so we've already went through the first set. On the rest, it's all going to come from Community Crossings Grant 9161 to fund 50,000.
that's a community corrections grant.
Or, I'm sorry, Community Crossings, Community Corrections. You got excited, didn't you? Okay. And so I'm going to read through these amounts real quick. $2,238.12, $160.86, $11,036.77, $13,194.89, $1,840.11, $2,713.95. Are we tracking on all that?
Correct.
Okay.
I'm gonna go ahead and make a motion that we proceed with the transfers as presented by Donna and President Wood.
Okay, do I hear a second? Okay, I have a motion on the floor by Anton, second by Burl. Further discussion, Donna, anything else on that there? Call for a vote, all those in favor? 6-0. Donna, anything else?
She's got an appropriation.
She's got what?
She's got an additional appropriation, the $10,000 for the drug court.
Yes. That was the LCC, do you remember, Courtney came from the LCC a couple months ago, I think I put in there when we received it in maybe in June.
June 29th.
It was, the LCC is what reporting, the drug remediation kind of thing that gave out grants. We got one of those grants, but now we just need to spend the money. It needs to be appropriated so we can spend the money.
We need to advertise that. I make a motion then that we grant the auditor the right to advertise that grant process that we just mentioned.
Okay, what was the amount?
And what's the fund?
10,000,
And what fund was it?
drug court 9110, to line 937,000.
Alright,
Thank you.
thank you, Nick. Nick made a motion to advertise the amount of $10,000 from drug court to where?
37.
Line item 37,000, 37000.
37000.
I'll second that.
Seconded by Anton. Any other comments? Okay, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor? 6-0. Alright, salary ordinance and confirmation summaries.
I'm gonna go ahead and make a motion, we adopt the summaries into the record.
I second.
Okay, motion by Anton, seconded by Nick. We'll call for a vote. All those in favor? So. Alright, elected officials that have, and Jim, that have not spoke or had their request. Kathleen.
A correction on my advertising for the appropriation that I'm gonna turn into Sheila. It is, I think you guys approved it out of for Fund 1235. The money's gonna come from 1235, but it'll, my contract services is actually 1222. So,
Why don't we go ahead and make a new motion?
Yeah.
yeah,
Just to clarify, so I'm gonna make a motion that we rescind action earlier in the evening taken on E911 additional appropriation. We're gonna re-advertise, take new action for $4,400 out of Fund 1235 to 1222 contract services.
I second.
Alright. Thank you, Anton. Seconded by Nick. I think everybody heard the motion. So is there any further discussion? We'll call for a vote. All those in favor? 6-0. Thank you. Any other department head? Sir?
I forgot to mention a while ago that, I had applied for a grant through IDEC for power load systems, does loading and vacuum vehicles for us. Hopefully to save some backs and create more longevity in my employees. It does come with a 100% match, but I think we've already got that money secured,
Thank you.
so.
Great.
Thank you. Good. Alright, comments from the, sir?
I guess I did say, I applied for an iPad grant amount $10,000 for safety gear for my guys. It does not, the one that we applied for does not have a match, so.
Great. Yeah, this is great.
Get some more green shirts.
Yep.
Kathleen, did your department go for a IPEP grant?
Well, you need to start talking more to Chris.
I saw the paperwork and there really wasn't anything for us to
Yeah.
apply for, so.
I think
Good
we'll
job.
continually get stuff from IPEP. They're holding all kind of training classes and things that are coming up, and so I think that there'll be continued grants along the way and they'll make sure that we get them, or notified about them.
And it's to help reduce what, workers' comp related injuries, that kind of thing, okay.
Is there any questions we can answer, anything we can clarify for the public? Yeah, Jeff, go ahead.
Jeff Marks, Morgan Township. So, this evening, we've heard about some additional appropriations. And I'm sensitive to what people think about that in terms of, oh, they're spending more of our money.
No, not exactly.
I understand. That's, so could you please, so I heard this, and I'm gonna pick on, so many $1,000s in stone. I can't remember what it was, but anyway, something about stone, okay? And what does that mean when you say, we're asking for so much more money for stone, let's say?
Yeah, so that's a great question. Basically, Greg's got his budget, and within that budget, he operates out of certain funds. He's governed on what can transfer where between those funds. With this additional appropriations, you know, he's either he's transferring from one fund to another. Do you want to lend anything more on this?
Just an appropriation is just an authorization to spend the money. These still have to be raised by the cash. So if there's $10,000 in Greg's budget, but the line item itself is showing 0 in stone, it's not a tax increase, it's not taking money out of the general fund. It's just, I don't know, maybe in ways like a credit card limit, it's just allowing this amount to be spent. So on any of these authorizations and the transfers, it's just simply, there's 4 main areas. There's 10,000, 20, 30, and 40. Basically wages, services, contracts, and capital development. And if it's all within the same line item, 10,000 or 20 or 30, you're just transferring back and forth. So supplies for the shop or supplies for the vehicle, you just say, hey, we didn't spend this money, but we've got to spend it. So it's not a tax increase, but the best way is that in keeping track and for detail of the State Board of Accounts, making sure that no one spends over their authorization. So that's what it's there for. Yeah.
And just to be clear, that's why I make $5,900 a year, and he makes a lot more.
Because people hear this and go,
Yeah.
they're spending.
Right.
And at some point, the council though is responsible to, if Greg asks to move from A to B, and there's no way A's got enough money to put into B, you have to do time out.
Right.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I just.
Very good question.
Yeah.
That's a great question, and I'm glad, and we're glad you asked, because no one asks. So usually people don't say anything, and then.
With lack of information, people fill in the blank the way they want to.
Correct.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you. Beth.
That was my question.
Oh, great. Angie.
I want to know the grant they applied for, would anything,
That's a good idea.
would my office be able to benefit from a grant from them? Would they cover anything?
Yeah, who should she talk to about this?
Email you their information.
Okay.
And again, it's through IPEP.
Because they do a
so
lot of lifting.
whether it's like the cots, like she was just talking about.
We need a list for those new racks
Mm-hmm.
and that new cooler. We can't get above our heads. Really not very beneficial. Can't get anybody up there.
Madam Auditor. Nothing? Jim?
Just to repeat, we're 49 days away from November 30th. I know this has been a tremendous amount of work by the council, department heads, everyone, state and the courts. But the 9.5 months worth of work, it has definitely 100% paid off. Just follow, I guess what I'm saying, I'm not saying anyone's doing this, but not the time to let up, not the time to think we're okay. Just staying exactly what's doing, monitoring this week by week, and getting there to the 30th for the balances. And just going over, they're not spending, no one's doing that. That must continue for all the departments. Just get to this point, 2022 budgets we'll take a look at, but there's a tremendous opportunity here, council, to have a very different financial picture starting January of 2022 compared to where we're at 2021, 2019.
One thing we forgot, which was back to the highway and the other half of the liability insurance, we need to advertise for that. Correct?
No, he had $84,500.
Already appropriated, already in there. The council decided to lower that amount.
$256.
$84,500 is already appropriated.
So is there anything we need to do? Or does he just proceed with that particular claim?
The claims have not changed. It's exact same line item, it's exact same. The reality is the amount being expended is just going to be less. He's going to have a positive number in that line item at the end of the year.
Well, if no action is needed, and there's no objection anyway, then we're good. I just want to make sure we didn't miss something with the deadline, so.
The final adoption meeting is going to be at 7 p.m. on the 25th. So that'll be our next time getting together. Until then, again, let's pray for Chuck. And at this time, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you all. Huh?
You know, I had a good day today.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You're right on time.
Chuck